The Creature Files, presented by the Department of Mythical Wildlife, with your hosts, author Todd Calgi Gallicano, Christopher McClary at the Sightings desk, and resident skeptic Vic Afsahi. So sit back and listen as we report the latest news and up-to-date information about the mythical creatures living among us. The Creature Files. It might just save your life.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Creature Files, the show that's all about mythical creatures. We cover cryptids and creatures from folklore, anything lurking in the seas, in the air, or in the woods. I'm your host, Todd Calgi Gallicano, the author of the Sam Lennon Adventure Series from the files of the Department of Mythical Wildlife. And you can learn more about us online at www.mythicalwildlife.com. I don't do this alone, of course. I have co-hosts, so let's say hello to them. It's Chris McClary at the Sightings desk and our resident skeptic, Vic Afsahi. Hey, guys.
Hey.
Howdy.
Now, every book in the Sam Lennon Adventure Series features a few of our national parks. And so in honor of that, my background will always be a national park. The one that's behind me right now is actually featured a bit in the Selkie of San Francisco, book 2, and also makes an appearance in the third book, Search for the Swan Maiden. You guys have any ideas which one it is?
Looks like the Tahoe area, maybe? Up Northern California, Northern Central?
I'm going to go with Glacier National Park. Glacier National Park.
Nope. We're staying close to my home this time around with the Great Smoky Mountains National Park in North Carolina and Tennessee. It's one of the most visited, if not the most visited park in the park system. It's very well known for its fall change of colors. It's one of the busiest times at the park when people come from all over to drive through Great Smoky Mountains to see the fall change of color because it's just spectacular. All right, let's keep it moving and go to the Sightings desk with Chris McClary. Chris, see anything out there?
Thanks, Todd. Yeah, as a matter of fact, we do. And today we have footage out of Hubei province in China. Now, this sighting is from September of 2019. But the footage first appeared on a popular Chinese blog called Sina Weibo, and that's SINAWEIBO, if you want to look that blog up. And it has had millions and millions of views. What is being reported, and is pretty obvious from the footage, is a long black creature maneuvering through the waters of the Yangste River near the Three Gorges Dam. Now, people have been weighing in on this and calling it everything from a mythical creature to a snake to a floating branch. Some are even calling it a publicity stunt by the local government in order to attract more tourism in the area. But there's also a very strong possibility that this is a local creature living in the river. That is a giant salamander, which measures up to 6 feet. Can you imagine that? However, these salamanders are endangered due to the amount of pollution in the river, which makes me wonder if the pollution isn't the same thing causing salamanders to grow 6 feet long. I mean, when I was a kid, we would catch salamanders in the creek, but they were never more than 4 inches.
Now, I will say that, there's been a couple of these sightings of sea creatures or Loch Ness type monsters in China before. So we had a big sighting in 1987 in a different area of China, and then there was another one in 2017. And some believe, I've heard the rumor, the sort of the speculation that it's a giant salamander that grows to that length, which is pretty crazy. But there's also some speculation it could be a giant salmon of some sort. So the footage itself, which we'll put up on the website and we'll show, it shows some sort of, large elongated creature, dark creature moving through the water. Hard to tell what it is. Exactly, but it's there. And again, we'll put that up so you guys can take a look at it and judge for yourself. Let's go to Vic. Vic, what do you think?
Watching the video, this is pretty jarring actually, and it's solid. This is the first time on this program that we've actually had video that was not completely awful. You could tell that it's way longer than 6 feet. It's swimming similar to the way that pythons swim through the water, so that'd be my first inclination, but it's a lot darker in color, and the latter half of its body is actually raised out of the water, like it's floating a little bit. So it could be a giant eel, maybe. I don't know.
Interesting. Well, we'll have to just sort of, follow it and see what happens, see if there's more sightings of this creature in the river. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the creature feature. And this week's creature is the Dogman, otherwise known as the Cynocephalus. This is a creature that's featured in the Sam London Adventure series. He's a prominent creature in the series. But today we're going to talk about it in terms of its existence in antiquity, as well as more contemporary sightings. So what if man's best friend was the size of a man? Say hello to the Cynocephalus, a dog-headed creature that has been seen in folklore in Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and Europe. The word Cynocephalus, or Cynocephalus, is derived from the Greek words kuon, dog, and kephalos, head. Now, some of the earliest writings related to these creatures come from the Greek physician Theseus, who encountered them on a trip to the mountains of India around 400 BC. Now, Theseus wrote at the time, and I quote, "On these mountains there live men with the head of a dog, whose clothing is the skin of wild beasts. They speak no language, but bark like dogs, and in this manner make themselves understood by each other. All, both men and women, have tails above their hips, like dogs, but longer and more hairy. They are just and live longer than any other men, 170, sometimes 200 years." Now, others would add to the stories over the years. Alexander the Great claimed to have fought them in India. Herodotus saw them in Libya. The Roman Pliny the Elder included them in his famous book, Natural History. And a Chinese Buddhist missionary spotted them living on an island to the east of Fusang. Even explorer Marco Polo referenced the cynocephaly in his writings, and I quote, "And I assure you, all the men of this island of Angamenane have heads like dogs and teeth and eyes likewise. In fact, in the face they are all just like big mastiff dogs." Now, some believe that Saint Christopher of the Christian faith was a cynocephaly who longed to be human and eventually got his wish. Now, we don't have to look to antiquity to find the Dogman. There have been numerous sightings of the creature more recently. The first reported contemporary sighting of a Dogman was in Wexford County, Michigan in 1887. Two lumberjacks saw a creature whom they described as having a man's body and a dog's head. Later sightings occurred in the 1950s and 1960s in Allegan County, as well as near Manistee National Forest and the Cross Village area of Michigan. In 1961, a night watchman managed to capture a photo of the creature. Now, it showed a large humanoid standing near a streetlight. And we'll go ahead and show that photo to you that are joining us on the video. Now, this photo remains a mystery. And there have also been other reported sightings, not just in Michigan, but in New York as well as West Virginia. Today, we're very lucky to have on someone who's actually seen a Dogman. Christian MacLeod, aka the Cryptid Guy, is the director and lead investigator of the Asheville Cryptid and Paranormal Society. He has over 24 years of experience investigating cryptids and unexplained mysteries. He has a passion for Native American culture, folklore, and legends, as well as the occult, UFOs, forbidden archaeology, secret societies, and conspiracies. Christian, thanks so much for being on today.
Well, I am honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
So let me just jump right in. I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about yourself and how you became involved just in the world of cryptid hunting in general.
Well, it goes back to when I was a little kid. I grew up in a small town in Maine, and we always had strange things happen in the backyards. The way our house was basically it was like a small farm, but the back of the house was nothing but woods for miles. And on the backside, that was the Appalachian Mountains. So it was very dense woods, and I used to go out there, and I would just disappear in the woods forever. I used to love being out in the woods, still do to this day, but I would see things that didn't make sense to me, tree formations, things like that. And as I got older, I started to realize that maybe something else was out there. And what really kind of set the whole ball in motion, if you will, was I was taking a walk with my grandfather and my cousin, and we were just walking on this little trail, and there was this huge footprint. I mean, it was huge. And I was only 5 or 6 at the time, so anything next to my foot was big. But my grandfather wasn't a small guy, and he looked at it, and he started to kind of wig out. Now, the reason why I say this was very strange at the time was this was a World War II vet. He was a Spitfire pilot. He'd been shot, I think, 7 times. I mean, he was a bad guy. He was tough. And after World War II, he spent a year in Alaska just to kind of calm down. It was his way of dealing with everything. Mm-hmm. And he kept saying about the boss of the woods. Now, I had absolutely no idea what that meant. And he took us back to the house, and he had a conversation with my dad and my uncle, and I only got to hear part of it because they kept throwing me out of the room. But he was basically asking my dad what kind of firepower they had in the house, things like that, because we had the boss of the woods to worry about. And years went by, I had no idea what that was, and he died when I was very young. He died the next year, and so I never really got to talk to him. But there was like the stories and everything, you know, family folklore, I guess, if you will. But I have to be honest with you guys. My family, Todd, I wouldn't believe a whole lot of stuff they said. They tend to, they were exaggerators to be kind. I think that's why I'm just so blatantly honest about things today, because it's like the worst thing you can do for your credibility is just make something up. If you don't know what it is, you don't know what it is. And I always tell everyone that, even when I do my symposiums today and when I do my talks, never make anything up. Your credibility is all you've got. And after the years of just doing research on my own from that particular incident, I remember just getting on the internet and Googling Boss of the Woods, and lo and behold, our hairy friend comes up. So I've been constantly researching everything probably since, it's probably been more than 24 years, but I'm starting to feel old when I hear that kind of number. But maybe 25 years at this point, but that's probably when I started doing like just tons and tons of research on the weekends and planning trips, you know, going in the Everglades looking for the swamp ape, things like that, just all that kind of stuff.
So how did you get involved with this specific mystery, talking about the Dogman in particular? You know, I spoke before we got on with you about the cynocephaly and Cynocephalus, and which is a creature that's featured in the Sam London Adventure series in the books rather prominently. So it's a creature that I've gotten to know, but I love this, you know, this idea that there have been, you know, sightings here. So how did you get involved with that aspect?
Well, I'll be honest with you, that I was always a firm believer that was a type 3 dogman until I saw one. I was driving on the Parkway, the Blue Ridge Parkway up here, and my wife and I I'll be honest with you, my wife is asleep in the car. She tends to fall asleep on a drive, and we were lost, way lost. When I say lost, I had no idea where we were. It was not pretty. I mean, I'm doing 20 miles an hour just looking around, and it's just nothing but green. And I looked down on this embankment, and lo and behold, I thought at first it was a huge bear. And as I looked at this thing, it turned its head and it kind of looked at me like a dog would. And I just kind of slowed down about 5 miles an hour and just kept staring at this thing. And it was this massive creature. It just was huge. And it had these amber yellowish eyes, but it just had this look on its face. It looked like a huge puppy. It made absolutely no aggressive movement towards me. It just kind of looked at me, and then a bumblebee or something kind of flew by and started looking at that thing. But when it did that, it turned, and I looked at its head. And as its head turned, I looked down, and it had this massive chest. I mean, it almost looked like a comic book villain. It was so massive, like the Incredible Hulk, but just covered in black fur. And I just could not believe what I was seeing. Again, it made no aggressive moves towards me. I mean, I was driving a Honda Fit. If this thing wanted to pull me off the side of the road and throw us down, it could have done it in 2 seconds. That's how big this thing was. But we just drove off. And ever since then, I realized that, maybe these sightings weren't just type 3 Bigfoot. They were a different entity altogether. And that's when I started doing all the research on Dogman or Cynocephaly. And, we've been having Cynocephaly in the history books since Alexander the Great in 4th century BC. He talks about actually hiring mercenaries that were dogmen to fight for him from India. Marco Polo, again, he talks extensively about Cynocephaly in his travels to India. A lot of it has to do with India and Asia, that specific area. But then you go into folklore. Let's look at Anubis. Again, it's a perfect example of the dogman right there. So I think these creatures have been with us. And I think the same thing that happened to Bigfoot happened to the Dogman. I think what happened, and this is just in the United States, this is just my theory. There's a book I like to quote. It's called Pax Americana, and it's by Dr. Elizabeth A. Finn. And it's a book about how smallpox was actually ravaging the country from 1775 to 1782. And a lot of people kind of sidestepped that because the American Revolution was going on at that time. But this was actually happening all across the North American continent, Canada, South America, everywhere, smallpox. And here's why I say this. Smallpox is one of the few viruses that will jump from human beings to primates. Now, if Bigfoot is a primate, which I think he is, I think he's a North American primate, we probably did a whole lot of number of jobs. I'm sorry, we probably wiped out a whole lot of them with smallpox, the same way the indigenous people were wiped out. And it is just taking time for them to repopulate. And I think the same thing probably happened to Cynocephalus. I think they were probably at one point susceptible to smallpox and other diseases, and just now they're getting back to their numbers or so are large enough for people to start having all these sightings. I know we were going to talk about the Michigan Dogman, but I think that's a prime example right there. If you look at the timeline from Michigan Dogman, I mean, was it 1787 or I'm sorry, 1887? That's pretty much when the first sighting was, and that was in Wexford, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
That was in June of 1887 near Wexford, Michigan. So if you take that timeline and correlate that, I mean, it gives you about 100 years since smallpox kind of dissipated. So you can see where I'm going with this. Yeah, they needed time. Now, the other thing I always like to bring up is this. A lot of people think that, you know, the Europeans came here and just destroyed the country. Well, the United States, America as a continent, is still 86% intact from the first day the Europeans landed here. Now, I know it doesn't sound, you know, like we did a whole lot, but that includes all our infrastructure, all our street, all our deforestation, all that. So we've only managed to wipe out 14% of the continent. So that leaves 86%, which is a big space. And, you know, that doesn't include Canada and South America. So we have reports of dogmen in South America. They're prominent in South America. You know, there's a Grande Lobo, things like that. And, you know, we have all these reports about them in South America. Not so much Bigfoot in South America, but we do have Bigfoot reports in desert areas. But I think the Cynocephaly is more adaptable. So I think they've just gone to different areas. And if you look at how we've expanded as a nation, but we have these massive tracts of land for the park systems, I think what they do is they go and they hibernate. In other words, when it becomes winter in North America, I think the dogman might go south. I think Bigfoot just stays north or south in the country, but I actually think dogman might go to South America. I think he might go up north during the summer. I think they all migrate. I think there's migration patterns, and I think that's why we see these creatures at different times over the year. And when I do my research, it's March. I'm going to have, my phone will be blowing up soon. My hotline will be going on because I know for a fact, for my research, the Appalachian Trail area is a hot spot for dogman activity, not too far from where I am. I have more dogman reports last year than I had Bigfoot reports.
Wow.
And that's specifically in my area.
Earlier, I had spoken about some of those recent reported sightings and the one in Michigan. Then, what did you think? What do you think about that photo? The photo taken in 1961 by the security guard. Yeah,
I think it's a good photo. I don't think they had the technology back then, because wasn't that on a Polaroid too, if memory serves?
I'm not sure. I just know it's black and white, and you know.
But it might have been a Polaroid.
Okay.
I don't know why I'm thinking that. I could be wrong, and I apologize, Todd, if I'm wrong. I for some reason I want to say it was on a Polaroid, but I don't think they had the technology to come up with any kind of suit or anything that would do that, because like even when they do the digitization look at it, it looks very, very much what I've seen, like what I've seen. Got that size. It's got that gate. I mean, just got that sloping gate. Like it's looking, I don't know how to explain it, but to me, it looks real. Again, there's always a possibility it's fake. You know, I'm not going to be one of these guys that says it's 100% real. It's 100% this. It's, you know, there's always that little standard deviation, that 0.01% that could go either way, and it might not be real. But to me, it looks pretty authentic. And if someone could come back with that in 61, they should deserve an Oscar for makeup effects.
Now, so you talked a little bit about that sighting, that first sighting you have. Have you had other sightings of the dogman since then?
Pretty much. There's an area my team and I have gone to twice, 2 different Aprils. I don't ever give a location because I don't want ever to get hurt. We've been lucky. We had one. I'm sure you've heard the term blob squatch, like with that picture, you can end up with a blob. You know, it's like that. We had one I call a dog squatch blob, dog blob, but we had a couple of pictures we were trying to take, and it was just moving so fast we couldn't, even with the great camera we couldn't do it. But my team and I, we all saw this thing going from tree to tree, hiding from us, and we were about 7 miles in the place we called we always give something a code name so people don't know exactly what we're talking about. So if they look on a map, they're not going to know what it is. And again, that's for safety reasons. We pretty much publish everything we find, and it's one of these things. If you go to the website, here's what we find. It's believe it. This is your opinion. What do you think it is? We're not going to tell you what we think it is. It's what do you think it is? I want people to think for themselves. Now, again, I'm not one of these guys that thinks Bigfoot's in every picture in the woods. Not every house is haunted. It's one of those things. You kind of decide for yourself. So when we post our information, it's always kind of one of these things where you decide for yourself. And we've never really posted anything we've gotten as far as a Dogman picture, simply because it came out so bad. We've got witness reports. We've got claw marks. We've got canid tracks. I've got some of those. I work with a gentleman. We call him Tiny. His real name's Daniel Hurst. Tiny's almost 7 foot tall. He's lost a lot of weight, but he was pushing 440, and he's got like a size 16.5 shoe. And we took a picture of this canid track next to his foot. The canid track was almost bigger.
Wow.
And you can't, it's nothing. You can fully see what it is. So, I mean, these things get huge, specifically in this area. I've had reports 10 foot tall. There's been reports, usual report, I'm going to say around here in North Carolina, the average height probably from one of my reports is at least 8 to 9 foot tall. And they're always the same color. They're always just massive, huge, and black. I have never personally taken a report of a smaller one. I'm a firm believer there's 3 types. I call them the alpha, the beta, and the Charlie. Of course, the alpha is the big one. The beta is a little smaller, and the Charlie looks like a huge wolf walking on his back legs. So, there's different types, of course, but not that I've run into. I've always run into the alpha type. If you look at I've got some pictures on my website of what the alpha looks like and what the beta looks like. So that's what we usually run into here.
Okay. And now you talked a little bit about, seeing prints and stuff like that. Is there other kind of evidence that you point to, sometimes with Bigfoot or with
I've had claw, we've had many times we've just found trees with just looks like claw marks just torn into them. And it looks like a hand did it. Now, the problem with not knowing if, you can say, oh, hey, a Bigfoot could have done that, blah, blah, blah. We don't know because the size of the hand was just massive. But it did look like sharp claws. Now, I'm not a Bigfoot expert, and anyone telling you they're a Bigfoot expert is lying to you because there's no such thing. We're talking about paranormal activity here and cryptid activity. And as we all know, cryptid is an unidentified creature. So for someone to tell you they're an expert in the field, walk away because that's not true. I'm giving you the best scenario that we've come across. Does that make sense? I will never, ever call myself an expert in anything because I'm not. And I've just done a whole lot of research, and I've done a whole lot of time out in the woods looking for specific things, and I've been lucky and I found some stuff. My goal is to help someone. If someone has a problem with either a Bigfoot or a Dogman in their property and it's been harassing their family, something like that, my goal, I want to help them not hurt this entity or creature, but to make it just go away. I want to have the knowledge to help them say, okay, if you put up a lot of track lighting, that'll probably get rid of them because they don't like bright lights, blah, blah, things like that nature. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, do you find that like that's something that you're doing often where you're coming out to try to intercede in a situation
That's what we do. And it comes from people. And again, everything we do is 100% on the low. We don't talk about names. We don't put names in a computer. Everyone gets a code name.
Of course.
We come up with a different name for the area. One example is I've got a place I call the Bermuda Triangle. We've actually had not only Dogman and Bigfoot reports, but also heavy UFO activity in this area. So, that's a whole different ball game. I mean, that's something we very rarely go into. We're going to go into there probably next month, and we'll just do that one time. And honestly, the only reason why we do there is we take readings because there's part of it that's actually radioactive. So we'll take the Geiger counter out and see what we get a reading on, see if it matches last year. There's just things like we do like that. But for the most part, if someone calls up and says, hey, we're having some issues around the house, getting thumping, there's something peeking in the windows, things like that, we go out there, we take a look. Sometimes we find things, and sometimes we don't. And then, we'll get stories. I hate saying this, but I am not a believer in, what's the word I'm looking for here? The woo-woo. That's not my thing. if someone tells me, oh, Bigfoot, he disappeared into a porthole, or someone tells me they mind spoke with me, no, I'm out. I was trained in the scientific method, and that's what I go by. So if someone says, oh, hey, this thing was talking to me in my head, okay, that's lovely. Maybe someone else can help you with that. We don't buy into that. I'm not saying, is it possible? I'll give it a 1% chance of possibility. That's just not something I fall into. What we do, we look at the history of an area. If you really want to know something about an area or an ancient species or people, you look in the Native American folklore, or you talk to the Native Americans, because they know it all. They've been here for 14,000 years. They know what's shaking. You look at the timeline, 14,000 versus 300. Who's going to know more? So I always try to correlate. I have nothing but respect, specifically in this area, and it's just not because I'm in this area, but I have respect for all Native American cultures. But I deal a lot with the Cherokee Nation, and I have had nothing but kindness and respect from the way I've been treated by the Cherokee. They're just the greatest people around. They're helpful. They're brilliant, and their culture goes back so far that to not take their knowledge would be stupid. It's actually insulting not to listen to what the Native Americans have to say about specific areas in general. And it comes to cryptids and dogmen, because they've dealt with them. They know they're out there. They know they're there, and they know how to deal with them. They know how to get rid of them. They know how to keep them away. They also know how to get along with them. So that's who you need to be talking to. That's the information I try to pass along. I'll get the knowledge from a certain area, or I'll make a phone call and say, hey, there's an area, this is going on. This is what should we do here? And, sometimes I'll get a response. Sometimes I don't. But we're always trying, we're always trying to do the right thing and trying to help people out.
Now, how do you sort of handle the skeptics in this? I mean, we hear a lot about Bigfoot, but we don't hear a lot about Dogman, at least in terms of the same level of interest that we get from Bigfoot.
20 years ago, everyone was convinced that the Loch Ness Monster was real, and then that kind of dissipated. Then there was this huge resurgence back to our hairy friend about 15 years ago. And about 5 years ago, Dogman hit the scene, and it's just kind of taken over. And the reason why I always kind of say, Dogman's always been around is I say, look at every culture pretty much on this planet has a werewolf legend. And they also have a vampire legend. So where did that come from? They had to come from somewhere. The Greeks, they go back, they have cynocephaly tales. The Egyptians, they had Anubis as one of their gods. I'm sure the Babylonians had cynocephaly tales. So, I mean, there's all these cultures globally that have had all these. In China, they have, cynocephaly tales. So I'm sure these creatures were a lot more abundant, tens of thousands of years ago, and something might happen. They started dying off, and now they're coming back, and that's why we're having all these sightings. So when someone says, oh, that's not true, well, how do you know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we, look at the coelacanth. That fish was supposed to exist for how many? 20 million years, 100 million, something like that. And it's still, they're still finding them on the coast of South Africa. We don't know. We have no idea what's really out there. And again, I'll throw the fact out there. I am a conspiracy guy, but let's look at it this way. I'm sure there's entities that know these creatures are out there, and they don't want anyone else knowing about it for several reasons. One, it'll probably kill the economy. And two, how are you going to explain that we've known about this for X amount of time? And they may have hurt people over the last 100, 200 years, and we've known about it, and there's really nothing we've ever done about it. So that opens them up to a whole lot of issues too. So that's where I come up with that. It's very possible. Anything's possible.
So I'm going to go ahead and bring in my co-hosts, Chris and Vic, and see if they have any questions for you. Chris, do you have any questions?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. So Christian, I wanted to thank you for doing the show. And I see it's Christian MacLeod. So in honor, I'm drinking from my own family's Scottish tartan mug. The MacDonald family, that's the McClary family, is part of that clan. So cheers. And I want to thank you for being on the show. Amazing to hear about this. And this is not an area I've looked into very deeply. So this has been a really great education. And I did have a couple of questions. Well, first of all, and thanks for the work you do. I love that you go out and you're helping people deal with these, I guess in some cases, menaces, or maybe they're frightening their families or something, harassing their livestock or whatever it is these people are encountering, that you're out there on the front lines, bringing them peace of mind. And I think that's awesome. But my simple question is, I'm wondering, I loved your firsthand account from the driver's seat of your car. Have any of these people who followed up with you over the years having sightings, have what they've seen been similar to the sighting you described?
Yeah, I've had several that were the exact same size, same sighting, same dynamic. I mean, I don't know if it was the same one. I doubt it. And again, a lot of people never feel any hostility, Chris. There's just it's not there, And then sometimes I've had reports where people were completely terrified. There was a guy, his name's Dark Waters, and I haven't heard him much anymore, but I used to listen to him all the time. He's got a real good, he's in the horror, horror stories, but he coined the term crypto terrorist for Dogman. And I always kind of thought that was funny because I've gotten reports where they seem to enjoy scaring the bejesus out of people. It's like they get off on it, like they'll smile, they'll do the come here point thing, and they'll scare people. I took one report that wasn't too far from here where a guy and his family were camping, and this thing just kept all night running its claws down the side of the tent. And he told me point blank he thought that thing was laughing. He could see the shadow through the campfire, but he could see the thing just kind of shaking like it was laughing.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring Vic in. Vic, do you have any questions for Christian?
What are the types are there different types of dogmen the same way that there are like Bigfoot?
Well, I think there are. Like I said, this is just my personal classification because I've got friends of mine that they think there's a whole offshoot of an offshoot of an offshoot. They'll say there's a hyena type, there's this type, there's that. I personally think there's 3 types. I think there's the alpha, the beta, and the Charlie. Of course, the alpha's the big boy. I've had reports of alphas up to 10 foot. I think that's what I saw because they're massive. They're huge. The beta is the same kind of thing, just a little bit smaller. And again, the Charlie would look like a timber wolf walking on his back legs, and it's got the tail.
Okay.
Sometimes the alpha is seen with the tail, and sometimes not. And the beta is never seen with the tail. That's just the information I have.
Yeah.
But again, you'll see people with totally different. They'll have different hyena type dogmen. They'll have dogmen with brown and black stripes. There's all kinds of differentiation. I've never seen or had a report of any of those.
Okay.
And again, that could be geographically to me.
Is the dogman considered intelligent, or is it more like an apex predator kind of thing where it's,
I think it's highly intelligent. The last time we had a sighting, or my team and I, there's 3 of us out in the woods. We had actually come upon some Bigfoot sign. We had some pretty serious tree glyphs, some friction marks on a 9-inch oak branch that had just been snapped off. I still can't believe how thick that thing was. And that's when we found the 21 by 11.5-inch footprints. So I thought we were running into something different. And about 25, 30 yards behind us, I turned around real quick and I saw this big black flash. And I remember thinking, oh boy, get the cameras out, just everyone start taking, because I've got the GoPro cord and I'm trying to make sure my GoPro's getting this. And then about 5-6 seconds later, we heard this growl that was like my chocolate lab on steroids. It was just this, and I think that specific dogman was communicating with another one, because behind us we started hearing some other tree. It sounded like something was behind the trees, like something was scratching the tree. I don't know how to explain it like that, but it sounded like something was clawing at the bark. Does that make sense? And we were having footfall on leaves. So we decided we started to go investigate that a little bit, and then we got growled at again, and that's when we decided to leave. But we were being paced out, I've been paced out of areas before by Bigfoot. That's a different feeling. And it's a different sound too, because the weight, they are so massive,
Do you guys have any recordings of what you believe to be Dogman audio? Because we've had a guest before provide some Bigfoot audio, and it's absolutely terrifying.
We don't have any audio that I would call worth showing to anyone, because what we were doing when all this was happening, this was recorded on a GoPro, It was mounted to a chest inside a plastic case. You know those plastic cases? And the audio on those is pretty good, but we didn't ever get anything audio on that. That is actually probably one of our primary goals this year, is we want to get we just want some audio. And I'm going to tell you something straight up, and I don't know if it's ever going to be released. I did a TV show with the Discovery Channel last summer, and we got growled at the infrasound range, and it went up. So it was like 15 to 30. And I got to see a copy of the TV show, and it's completely edited out. And I'm in the process of trying to get that. And why they did that blows my mind, because that was probably some of the best. I mean, we were getting paced out. We found footprints. We found 17 by 8 footprints. We found this, basically, it looked like a train had gone through the bushes, and we got I mean, it was everything. Friction marks, everything. This is all being filmed on a professional TV camera, professional digital. And when I saw the final cut, they didn't even mention it. It was kind of really disappointing. So I was kind of hoping I could get my hands on that. But I've had some pretty good opportunities like that. I honestly think that was a Dogman that was coming for us on that one.
Well, thanks, Christian, for joining us and for giving us all this information. It was fascinating. Please let our listeners and our viewers know how they can find out more information about you and the Asheville Cryptid and Paranormal Society.
Well, thank you so much for having me, fellas. This has been a pleasure. This has been one of the nicest interviews I've ever had. Anyone that wants to get in touch with us can get us at Asheville Cryptid and Paranormal Society.com, or you can call me at 828-782-3766, and it would be a big help for me if I'm trying to get a bigger digital media footprint. So if anyone would like to follow us on Twitter or Instagram, you can get us on Twitter at Society Cryptid, and on Instagram, Asheville Cryptid. And we've got one more phone number. It's 828-407-0046. So anything you want to talk to us about, it's 100% confidential. We don't even put anything. We write it down in a notebook, and we talk to each other about it. Then we assign that notebook a code, and then we destroy the original. And we don't even have names. We got a phone number, and that's about it. We don't put anything on the computer. It's just we want people to feel comfortable. And in this day and age, the digital hacking and everything, it's so easy to get into people's stuff. That's why we're kind of old school. We use an old legal yellow pad, and we take pictures, and then that's about it. We go from there.
Well, and we'll put all that information for those people that are listening to the podcast. We'll have all that information, all of Christian's information on the website, mythicalwildlife.com, as well as on the YouTube page where we'll have the video. So in the story notes, you'll get all the links and everything for getting more information about Christian and what he does. So thanks again so much for being here, and good luck. And please let us know if there's anything more to report. We'd love to hear it.
I would love to be back, fellas. This has been a blast. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It's been great. Thank you so much.
All right, guys, we've heard from Christian MacLeod about the Dogman. So let's get some last remaining thoughts. What do you guys think? Chris?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's tough to refute, somebody who has a firsthand sighting and also goes out and helps other people who also have firsthand sightings. But then again, I agree what he said. No one knows for sure. There's obviously something going on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Vic, what do you think?
Yeah, like I always say, it's always more interesting when the person is speaking from their own experiences. And this is really interesting events that this guy has seen. And if you actually look and visit his group's website, they have a number of interesting pictures and, footprints and markings on trees that lends more credibility to what he's talking about. And I'll be excited to actually maybe hopefully see some footage and hear some sounds in the future.
We want to thank you all for joining us for this episode of The Creature Files, and we invite you to visit our website at mythicalwildlife.com and vote in our poll. Do you believe the Dogman is real? Please let us know. Now you can follow the Department of Mythical Wildlife on Facebook and on Instagram and on Twitter. And you can listen to us on iTunes, the audio podcast. It's also available on Google and Spotify and a couple of other areas. You can find those links on the website, as well as the video version, which is available on YouTube. And if you've had a sighting of a mythical creature, you can go ahead and report it on the website. We'd love to hear about it, and we might even have you on the show. You can also email us at info@mythicalwildlife.com. So thanks again, and always remember to heed your call to adventure.
The Creature Files. It might just save your life.